processes. The community needs and deserves common sense leadership to get them through this crisis and back into their communities. The county is removing all barriers to our own permitting process. At yesterday's Board of Supervisors meeting, our board unanimously approved a motion co-authored by me and Supervisor Horvath to drastically reduce regulatory hurdles in the rebuilding process. It took 20 pages of a board motion, but we eliminated bureaucratic barriers that would slow down the rebuild in our communities. This motion also took steps to ensure residents can rebuild their communities as they once were, without the fear of displacement and with assurance that will restore the small businesses and commercial centers that power their economy. I want to emphasize to those who are planning to rebuild, the process starts now. Submitting your right of entry permit is the first step, but you can work with our county departments to submit your plans for rebuilding if you are ready. Once debris is cleared, the rebuilding process begins and the planning and design can start now. I've also heard from many residents who've asked if we can permit them to build ADUs on their property to live in while they are rebuilding their home. Our Director of Regional Planning assured me that we can make this happen. I look forward to getting more details to you soon so we can get that accomplished quickly. We are still early in a long road of recovery, but when I speak with our residents who have lost everything, their spirit fills me with hope that we can see this through. To impacted residents across our county, know that we see you, hear you, and I can speak for the entire board, we stand with you. We will not stop working until we get you back into your homes. With that, I'd like to introduce Supervisor Lindsay Horvath of the 3rd District.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your strong leadership and partnership in making sure we have all of the resources necessary to move forward at a quick pace. Residents of all areas in the Topanga Fire area now have access to their properties: Malibu, Sunset Mesa, Topanga Canyon, and Pacific Palisades. Escorts are no longer required, but you do need a resident access pass at 2 checkpoints: Carbon Beach and PCH for Malibu and Santa Monica Mountains residents. Santa Monica Beach, Lot 3 for Palisades residents. Los Angeles County Department of Public Health provides PPE at these checkpoints. These include respirators, gloves, goggles, and protective suit, and as well as guidance on how to wear it and why you need to use it. Please use this PPE when you return to your homes. A lot has been said in the debris removal process about 18 months, and we have heard from residents how unacceptable that timeline is. That is why we are moving forward with all deliberate speed to bring more people, more resources, and more tools to Los Angeles County. And I especially want to thank Chair Barger for her leadership, getting more federal resources to Los Angeles County. EPA's Phase 1 started at a projected 3 months and is now shortened to 30 days. Phase 2 debris removal launched with right of entry forms just yesterday, and our Public Works Director will walk us through that process. Here are tips that we recommend to accelerate the process for you. Work with your neighbors to opt into a government-led program or your private contractor program. It is not only important for you to decide what you want to do with your individual property, it's important that you work with your neighbors so we can have a collaborative, collective approach to your neighborhood. Phase 2 can start as soon as Phase 1 is completed by the EPA, not in its entirety. Phase 2 will begin once Phase 1 is completed in each property. If neighbors work together to submit ROEs, you will be able to move more quickly. The county is working in coordination with cities, EPA, and the Army Corps to bring on private contractors for the cleanup and expand our capacity to rebuild our infrastructure and protect and strengthen our flood control system. If you'd like to go with private contractors, they can now go with you to your property when you return. This is feedback we received at this Sunday's town hall, and we immediately turned that feedback into action, incorporating it into our recovery plans. For anyone who is ready, you can apply for building permits now as well. If you have an operable car that needs to be towed, you can bring a tow truck in now. If you would like to find personal mementos, you're able to do that now. But please, again, wear PPE. It is safer to do so after the EPA completes phase 1. But we know people are eager to get back to their properties. And so if you do go back, and we've heard some of those very heartwarming stories about an engagement ring that was found, a coin collection, these very personal mementos, just please do so wearing your PPE. If EPA finds any of your valuables on your property, they will turn them over to the Sheriff's Department or Los Angeles Police Department to get them back to you. And you can get updates on where we are in phase 1 for your property by calling 833-798-7372. That's for each individual property owner. So if you want to see the progress that we're making, you can call that number, and you can also go online at the EPA. Our beaches are closed from Malibu to Playa del Rey, specifically Surfrider Beach to Las Flores State Beach, and Santa Monica to Dockweiler. An ocean water quality advisory is in effect through tomorrow morning for all of our beaches, and we know currently the water is not safe for you to go in and enjoy. The sand is unsafe in large portions of our coast, so we are asking you to exercise extreme caution. As far as community outreach, we know people are desperate to get reliable, consistent information. These 8 a.m. press conferences will continue every Wednesday as we have updates to share. And my office will be holding our next town hall Wednesday, February 5th, as well as smaller meetings with communities going forward. I know our public health department, there are lots of questions specifically about public health impacts. Our public health department has a town hall called Protecting Your Health After a Fire this Friday, January 31st at 6 p.m. In closing, I want to thank all of our community members for their engagement, for their feedback, for their partnership. It is this collaboration and partnership that will lead us to a safe and swift rebuild. I'd now like to introduce our Director of Los Angeles County Department of Public Works, Mark Pistrella.
Thank you, Supervisor Barger and Horvath. This morning, as was mentioned, we're going to go over an overview of the process for debris removal on your properties. So let me begin with that. The debris removal process consists, as you've heard, of 2 phases. Phase 1 is household hazardous waste removal. The U.S. EPA agency is the responsible agency for this work, and you can call them at 1-833-798-7372 or via email at EPA/LA-wildfires-info@epa.gov. This phase is mandatory for all affected properties. There is no opt-in or opt-out for this option for this program. Representatives from EPA are available to answer questions at the numbers that I gave you. General debris, phase 2 is the second phase, general debris removal. This program is going to be managed in cooperation with the Army Corps of Engineers and LA County Public Works. Residents have 2 options, both requiring verification of ownership. 1, opting in. Enroll in the free government-managed debris removal program by opting in. Option 2 is to opt out. Hire your own private qualified contractor to manage the cleanup independently. Contractor qualification requirements will be posted on the recovery.lacounty.gov website, or you can call 844-347-3332. This certification will require complying with all Army Corps standards for debris removal, following all county-approved haul routes, disposing of debris at county-approved landfills, and complying with all local jurisdiction requirements for each city. It's important, again, to note that if you are going to use private property contractors to do the debris removal, You will use your own insurance for that and your own funds for that program. You will also be required to have phase 1 completed. Very important, phase 1 by EPA must be completed before we'll even let you, you'll have to have that to apply for that permit to move through. Okay. For residents who choose to opt in, and it's the program that I, as your county engineer and Director of Public Works, am recommending you opt into. Complete and submit a right of entry form to authorize the government to manage debris removal on your property. These forms can be found at recovery.lacounty.gov, and that same phone number I just gave you, you can get information. And make sure 844-347-3332. The forms will also are available at the disaster recovery centers. The ROE form is available now, as I said, and it's available until March 31st, 2025. So there is a time limit to opting in. If you don't opt in by that date, we'll assume you've opted out of the program. The debris is required to be removed through every jurisdiction. It cannot be left on property. So again, this government-run free program is the one I'm recommending because it will be done within, you'll need to opt in for it, and it'll be done in a timely way. Online at, again, I already gave the recovery at lacounty.gov. If you choose to opt in, the county will collect the portion of your insurance policy designated for debris removal. Once all work is completed, we will coordinate with you and your insurance company to recover any applicable funds. For those of you that are able to get to your property, they're partially damaged, or you're not in this program, you can use those funds for that. For those of you that are in this program and have debris removal that is different from this larger debris removal, maybe there's vegetation, other things you're pulling off, you can use that insurance. Whatever's left over in that insurance is what we'll be collecting from you at the end of the program. We will not collect that insurance portion until your property has been cleaned by the Army Corps of Engineers and certified. If you opt in but later withdraw from the program before any work has been done on your property, again, no insurance funds will be collected. We get this question quite a bit. That's why I brought it up. Let me repeat what the supervisor said on rebuilding. The county is here to help you navigate this process to rebuild your new home and support you in rebuilding as quickly as possible. All jurisdictions, city and county areas are open for business in terms of submitting building plans. Do not hesitate. If you already know what you want to build, have plans ready, you can submit those plans now. To streamline the process, your local jurisdiction, including the county, establishing one-stop centers throughout in the individual cities as well as in the Altadena area for one-stop permitting of your building plans. These centers will bring together all relevant agencies, streamlining the process and ensuring you have everything necessary to rebuild efficiently and effectively. Again, for more information on rebuilding, go to recovery.lacounty.gov, go to lacity.gov for the City of Los Angeles, cityofpasadena.net for the City of Pasadena, Sierra Madre, ca.gov for the City of Sierra Madre, and MalibuCity.org for City of Malibu. This is specifically for your building permit requirements. The recovery.lacounty.gov site is one that I would tell all residents throughout LA County in these two burn areas and those other burn areas to go to. It's really robust. We have links to every city link. We have the link to the debris removal process. It is an absolute one-stop place for residents that have been affected by these recent fires. Thank you for your time. We are committed to supporting you throughout this process and ensuring a smooth path to recovery. All attendees here are available for questions post this interview.
Thank you. We'll now transition to question and answer. If you raise your hand when called upon, please share your name and which media outlet you are with. We're going to start over here and we'll go through the room. Microphone.
Hi, good morning. Craig Figner with KNX News. I'd like to know, just to clarify, does this apply to Eaton and the Palisade fire zones?
Yes.
Two follow-ups.
That's correct.
Okay. And then on phase one, when someone tells the government, okay, you can inspect for hazmat material, you have the permission to go on property, how long will that take? And then in phase two, if they decide to let the government remove the hazardous materials, how long can they expect that to take?
Okay, I'm going to answer the first part of the question. There is no government permission required for phase one. The EPA has been given it under an executive order and under a declaration of hazardous materials the authority to enter into private property. So no, you do not need to opt in or opt out. In fact, the EPA has your properties, is aware of your property, and will be inspecting as was stated over the next 30 days. On the second question, you were asking about how long debris removal. I'm going to let Colonel Swenson come up and answer the question from the Army Corps of Engineers.
Good morning, Colonel Eric Swenson, Recovery Field Office Commander, Army Corps of Engineers. The debris removal timeline is really based on how fast we can get the rights of entry turned in and then returned to us from the county. We have crews standing by, and as soon as we get a batch of our first ROEs, we are going to unleash our crews to those properties and start debris removal. Once a crew shows up to a property, depending on the complexity of that site, it could take 2 to 10 days to clear the debris from that site. And we certainly expect to be, done this whole process in less than a year. It just really depends on, how fast we get the rights of entry. And we're pleased to see that the residents of this community have already started to submit their rights of entry. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the back, then we'll keep on working. Name and media outlet.
Okay. Good morning, Christy Fajardo with Fox 11. And I have a question regarding the after-action review of the Woolsey fire and what was learned and what was implemented. We know that, that some of the deceased, unfortunately, were people who were disabled. And the after-action review after Woolsey, one of the recommendations was that working in conjunction with appropriate county health agencies and public utilities, identify and develop a plan for individuals who may require a more specific notification process and evacuation assistance. Did that happen?
Thank you. Kevin, do you want to take that? After action with Woolsey Fire.
Yes, thank you. Kevin McGowan, Director of the Office of Emergency Management. So with the Woolsey Fire after action review, there were 86 recommendations. One of the recommendations was the one you cited. There was also an after action implementation plan where those recommendations were put into an implementation plan. We'd be happy to share the reports that were made to the Board of Supervisors on the implementation plan, who was assigned those responsibilities, what the outcome of those responsibilities were. And then this will also be a part of the after action review that we are going through following the vote yesterday on the evacuations and emergency notifications related to this incident. Thank you.
All right, right here.
Good morning, Gigi Graciet, also from Fox 11. In addition to rebuilding and cleanup, one of the questions that we're getting the most from our viewers is the cause of the fire. Specifically speaking to the Eaton fire, can either the sheriff or the chief of LA County Fire update us on the status of the investigation, and also what role, if any, is this new video that was released over the weekend from the Arco gas station that reportedly shows the Edison lines arcing and sparking a fire in Eaton Canyon?
Good morning, Robert Luna, Sheriff of Los Angeles County. Both fires are still under investigation. You're referring to the Eaton fire. From the very beginning, we summoned our federal partners, specifically the ATF, working with the U.S. Attorney's Office to make sure that we were collecting everything and we didn't have any gaps. That investigation continues. I have no doubt, based on the expertise of these teams that we brought in from a national level, that we'll eventually get the investigation will be thorough and we'll get to where we need to get to. But it's still ongoing.
And the role of that new video?
I think it will be very helpful. And thank you for mentioning that again, because I do encourage our community members that if anybody either sees video or hears something, maybe there's a social media post that we may have missed, all of these pieces could be very important, a big part of the puzzle that will eventually get us to where we need to, and that's to find the cause of this very destructive fire.
Thank you. We'll go over here and then to the back.
Hi, this is Dave Zahnizer with the Los Angeles Times. I have a question for both Colonel Swenson and possibly Mr. Pastrella. A moment ago, Colonel Swenson, I think you said that you guys expect to be done with the whole process in less than a year. And I want to make sure I understand if that's a compression, because I believe last Thursday on the Zoom call with the Pacific Palisades Community Council, you used the number 18 months. Has it been shrunk from 18 months to less than a year? And if so, did that come at the direction from the federal government? Hang on, though, because I have a second part. The other question I have is, you were saying that you are unleashing folks, crews on these properties as you get these ROEs. And I'm wondering, does that mean that the folks who fill these out first, who opt in, are they getting cleaned up first? Is it actually going to be like first come, first serve? Or is there going to be at a certain point you're going to have to decide to do clusters of areas all at once?
So I'll answer the second question first. Obviously, the earlier you sign up and get your right of entry turned into the county for review and processing and passing on to the Corps of Engineers, the sooner we will get it. Ideally, we would love to get whole neighborhoods at a time before we send our crews out, because we want to be as efficient as we can in the removal of this debris and as safe as we can in the removal of this debris. And we also don't want to constantly have to upload our equipment, download our equipment, and track it across the community and on these shared roads. We're very cautious of the fact that we share these roads with first responders, fire, police, and emergency and paramedics. And so we don't want to create traffic jams because we're massing on one area. So if we had a whole neighborhood, we can move methodically through that neighborhood, one house at a time, and in maybe a month we could do an entire neighborhood. So it's not necessarily a first in, first out, but if you're the last person that submits your ROE, you're likely to be one of the last properties we get to, just because of how we award these contracts. So I encourage everyone to review the ROE today, soon, to make your decision on how you want to opt in or opt out, so that the county can process those and get them turned over to my organization. And to your first question, initially I came out and said that we thought the whole process would be complete in 18 months. I think the misunderstanding was, there will be some properties that will be last for a variety of reasons. The vast majority of people who sign up will be done much faster than a year. But there are always people, for a variety of reasons, maybe we don't know who, the ownership of the property may be in doubt because the owner may have passed away during or before the fire. And so the county can't approve the ROE until they've established legal ownership. So there's a little bit of a delay in processing that it takes before that ROE gets delivered to the Corps. But I assure you, as soon as we get the ROE, we are going to enter that into our system and get it assigned to one of our crews. Our contractor is a world-class construction contractor and can scale up or down depending on the number of ROEs that we have.
Did you have a final follow-up before we go to the back? One more.
I just want to make sure I understood. So when you talk about less than a year, roughly ballpark, what percentage of the homes do you think would be cleaned up in that less than a year time frame?
Well, it depends on how many people opt into the program. But my assumption going in is that I want everyone to opt in. So if we assume that 12,000 property owners opt into the program, I expect that we will have better than 80 to 90% of those properties cleared in the first year or less.
Thank you. We'll go to the back.
Sid Garcia with ABC7 Eyewitness News. Is the site to put all of this toxic ash finalized, and how do you address the concerns of those communities that are close to that as far as safety, pollution, just making sure they're going to be all right?
There's two phases, as you know. Phase one is EPA. They've designated locations to store material and remove them within a specific amount of time. For information regarding that, you have to speak to the EPA. For the debris that is going to be removed in coordination with the County of Los Angeles, with the Army Corps of Engineers, we've designated 4 existing landfills in community in LA County that will be taking this material. Of course, the material will be, as Colonel has previously described, processed on-site, recyclables taken off, cars taken, VIN numbers taken and processed, and then crushed and recycled. And then we'll have the materials, leftover materials, and I'll let him discuss it. You want to know what those materials will be. But we have, and we are working with our local landfills to accept the material. We have calculated that we do have the capacity to take these materials, so we can keep them. And then the other thing that residents are going to want to know about, what is the haul route and how are you getting it there? Those haven't necessarily been established exactly. We're going to make those haul routes in coordination with city leaders where we have that, and in incorporated, we'll be working with Supervisor Barger on those haul routes to make it as less disruptive as possible. And I'll let the Colonel talk about why we have a level of confidence that this material will not cause a pollutant of concern for those along the haul route.
We'll have a question over here, then we'll wrap up.
Thank you, Director.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So in terms of our processes for ensuring the public safety during private property debris removal, when we remove fire ash and debris, we place it in the bed of a dump truck inside of a black heavy-duty plastic liner, which we will wrap tightly around that ash, and then we will lower the tarp from the truck on top of it. That'll ensure that all of that ash remains in place during transit. Also, we remove debris in what we call the wet method. So we will use water and mist to keep any ash down on the ground and not airborne, so we can help mitigate any risks to the community, and in particular, standing homes that have been reoccupied.
Okay, we'll have a question over here.
Michelle Bias with NBC4. Supervisor, can you elaborate? I know you're working on the permit process for the ADU on the property, but does that mean also that they're going to have to wait till this is cleaned up or approved by the EPA before they can even start that process, or whoever can answer that?
Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was with a group of residents last night that are asking about that, and we're working with Amy Bodak, Department of Regional Planning, to provide guidance for those that do want to put ADUs on their property, because right now, and the governor's also signed an executive order that's going to allow it as well, but typically an ADU has to be attached to a home, and many of these people don't have a home, and they want to be able to live on their property while they rebuild. So we are pushing to get the guidelines out, especially for those that may want to purchase a prefab ADU, which I'm learning many out there. And so our goal is to have that done, and it's got, obviously the land's got to be safe for them to put it on, so they can't do it until the debris removal takes place. And that's why I'm pushing hard, and I appreciate the sense of urgency, because many of these people are living in hotels and are anxious to have some sort of stability in where they live, and it's important for us to get the debris removed and have those guidelines, so we're doing it in parallel.
All right, thank you. That's the end of our press conference. We will facilitate one-on-one, so if you have any unanswered questions, please approach the front and we'll connect you to a spokesperson. Thank you.
All right, we've been listening to the press conference of city officials there talking about the rebuilding process, some of the red tape that's kind of been in the mix for people trying to remove that. They've obviously had many meetings and talked to the community about what they'd like to see happen. Still asking people to use that PPE and trying to clarify that 18 months that they originally said would take the removal process. They're trying to really dial that back. Phase one of some of this recovery effort, they've moved from 3 months to 30 days. And really, it's once people get things cleared out, how do they then move forward? So you heard a lot of talk about AUDs and trying to get those on properties. There's some red tape with that, trying to work through that, because it's usually attached to a home that's on the property. Obviously, most of these homes have burned down. So just trying to work through a lot of those issues to get people back into these communities.
And talking about the phases, because there has been some confusion about that. Phase one is the EPA cleanup process for hazardous waste. Of course, the community of Duarte and the surrounding area is not happy about the hazardous waste going there. They're also discussing the route to take it there, to haul it. And then phase two would be coming in and rebuilding, which you can hire your own private contractor. You can opt in or opt out in terms of that process. But right now, people can apply for building permits. They can bring in their own tow trucks for those burned out cars, and they can look for personal mementos. But of course, they urge everyone to wear PPE.
Well, and I find it interesting. This seems like a different tone since President Trump visited, right? And there was that tense exchange between the mayor, Karen Bass, and him, because he kept hearing from people how frustrated they were that it was going to take 18 months just to clear things out and start the rebuilding process. So you hear some of these county supervisors now trying to clarify and say they are talking to people. They're trying to get things going here so that there is some clarification with that so people don't feel so frustrated.
And again, one last thing, the beach is closed from Malibu to Playa del Rey, which we have been reporting, but important to take note of that and not to go into the water.
Absolutely. All right, let's get a check now.